why would you go through so much work to do a film that isn't true and not know it on the front end?
If he lied about it and it was too late, they're like, well, we're going. We have a green light picture. Oh, it's not real?
Oh, so
no, we're going to do it anyway. I mean, you know how hard it is to get a movie made? Hey, Manny.
Yep.
What does a good spice rack help you win?
What?
The Hunger Games?
Oh, my
That's
God.
so bad.
That's pretty bad.
Here, this is better.
That's embarrassing.
Okay, this is better. Oh, okay, here we go. Did you hear about the guy who overdosed on curry powder?
No.
He went into a coma.
Oh, my gosh.
No?
I think that was worse than the last one.
Good. What's the number one rule of the spice trade?
What?
Time is money.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Are they in descending order of like they just keep getting worse?
Yeah, they keep getting worse, yeah. Anyway, guys, thanks again for tuning in. This is the Antimatter Movies podcast. I'm Jonathan, and for the first time ever, we have a very special guest on here. Who are you?
Hello, everybody. My name is Manny Sandoval, and I produce and direct films, and I do a lot of other things, but that's what I love to do right now.
And how do we know each other?
Oh, that's a long story. I'll keep it short. We had a shoot actually in downtown LA, and some of the gear was supposed to be delivered, and it wasn't delivered. And somehow, I think we had your number, I guess, stored there. And
you guys rented a Danadolly from me.
Oh, was it for that shoot? Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember we were like, hey, let's just text this guy and see. I don't even know why it was a Hail Mary because talent was already on set. And we're like, hey, any chance that you could bring some gear by? And you're like, when do we need it? And I'm like within the hour. And you're like, oh, yeah, I'll drive down there. And I remember you came down, calm and collect, and were very kind, set it up for us. And I don't know, I just felt like, wow, that's a very unique thing that someone would do that I don't think would be a typical thing to just drop everything and help somebody out.
Yeah. Well, I did it. And then you hired me to come work on one of your documentaries, and I became the DP of it. And now that's one feature. Now we're doing like 2 more right now. And a docuseries. We just got back from Guatemala.
Yeah, we brought
filming a docuseries, so it was pretty crazy times.
Brought you to Latin America. And
my first time there.
Yeah, no, that's actually unbelievable that you've never been there.
Yeah. Well,
or never been to any Latin country.
Any Latin country necessarily. I've never been, so it was a good way to introduce myself to a new culture and stuff like that.
On the real, what was your biggest concern before going out?
I didn't really have any. I think maybe it was just like making sure the gear was safe. I didn't care about my own safety or even your safety. I just want to make sure the gear is okay.
Because I was an option of not to care about something.
We'll heal. The gear will.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Did you look up that Guatemala's? I think it's called Category 4. Basically, they rate the danger of the country.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Good thing I know that afterwards. So I can claim ignorance. But anyway, yeah. So Manny and I become pretty good friends. So as is the new tradition on this podcast, even though we just started it, the guest gets to pick the movie we talk about, no matter how bad or good or weird it might be. Although we're talking about, I think I wouldn't call it a masterpiece, but it's a good, entertaining film. Yeah. So I'll let you do the honors, Manny. What are we talking about here?
I think we're talking about is it called Flamin Hots?
Flamin Hot.
Is it called Flamin Hot?
Just Flamin Hot. Just like you see, this is why we have Cheetos and Lay's here and stuff like that. So, yes. Yeah, Flamin Hot, directed by Eva Longoria, actually.
Yeah. Is it her first feature?
I believe so, yeah. Obviously, you probably saw it streaming, I'm guessing is how you saw it, right?
Yeah. I didn't go to any theatrical screening for it. It was one I was looking forward to a long time, obviously being Latino, and obviously growing up on these chips and spicy chips and stuff like that. So I think when you hear an origin story, especially if it's a true story and the way it was marketed, you just go, man, like, I don't know. I just, I don't want to speak for everyone on the internet, but I feel like Latinos, we don't have that many things that we're not really champion as a true story thing on the screen a lot, unless you're like a famous singer or something, or maybe it's like a cartel thing, like Narcos or something. So when I saw this, I was like, wow, this is wholesome and this is hot Cheetos, and who doesn't, know the brand or have enjoyed it? So I wanted to see it.
There's a lot of Hispanic representation in like our culture about like successful businessmen.
Yeah, that's
talked about.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
Yeah, and he actually embraced his heritage to become successful. Although it may not be a true story. I don't want to get into it too much because it really doesn't have much of an effect or bearing on the quality of the film. But this guy, Richard Montañez, he claims he invented the hot Cheeto while working at Lay's as a janitor. And he started making that claim in like the early 2000s or something like that. And when they announced this movie, Frito-Lay's is like, he's lying about it. Things don't quite add up, but I mean, Star Wars isn't a real story.
Yeah, it's funny how
So it doesn't matter.
It's funny how your brain works, because to me, it's everything. It does matter to me that if it is fake. I don't know if I'm an idealist or a little bit of a dreamer, but I actually want to believe that it's true. And this is another reason why. And this is the producer mindset, where like, why would you go through so much work to do a film that isn't true and not know it on the front end?
If he lied about it and it was too late, they're like, well, we're going. We have a green light picture. Oh, it's not real? So no, we're going to do it anyway. I mean, you know how hard it is to get a movie made, to get financing and stuff like that?
Yeah, you don't want to stop the train. I totally get that.
So if you already announced it and you have money and you're getting ready to start doing it and they're like, oh, the story isn't real, they're like, let's just do it anyway.
That would be what I would call a moral conundrum. Yeah. You know, to your point, I mean, I guess even if it's not real, it's still a great story, and you can obviously believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, put it this way: when we make movies, we're actually, the goal is to get people to buy into whatever, you know, where the story is going, you know, whether it's true or not. It's just, I think when it's a true factor, to me, it's just, I don't know. I think it just makes you feel the possibilities a little closer to you than, like, you know, when I see Star Wars, I don't dream about being a, you know, Jedi.
I do.
Somebody say, I know some people do. But, you know,
I am a Jedi, though.
Oh man, that it's just crazy. The craziest part to me, and I know we're not supposed to talk too much about it, but the LA Times did an article about the Flamin Hot movie. And you know, it was a Latino guy that wrote it, and, you know, ripped the movie up and stuff like that. And it's just like, wow, like, just the great lengths that they're going towards. And I don't know, to just disprove it. And it's like, well, then just let the people enjoy it. Let the people decide.
Yeah, there's too much negativity in the world, so I try to be positive on here.
Yeah. So what's the positive part about this fraudulent story?
Supposed fraudulent
story.
I haven't eaten a Flamin Hot Cheeto in, I honestly don't remember. So we're going to open it up on this podcast. And I'm going to see how it is. While I was setting up, Manny's like, oh, man, it's doing everything I can not to eat right now, man. But we got to save it for the podcast, right?
This was the lunch food. And what we would do in South Central here, try it. How long has it been?
At least 15, 20 years. Okay, here we go.
There you go.
You know what's better than I remember, actually?
Oh, good.
It's actually okay.
You enjoying the enriched cornmeal, the yeast extract?
Yeah.
How about the
authentic flavor of Mexico?
Yeah, yellow 6 Lake, whatever, onion powder.
Here's the Flamin' Hot Lays. Let's see.
Oh man, that's so good.
Not as intense. Like, these are pretty mild compared to the others.
You know, they made cereal, hot Cheeto. I mean, yeah, Flamin' Hot.
I believe
cereal.
It. Yeah. And cakes and soda too. I think they even do like gourmet restaurants where you can put Cheetos on there and stuff like that.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did liquor.
Probably. Oh, we should have gotten some. Was it a flaming? No, Fireball.
Fireball.
That would have been good.
Yeah, Fireball.
It's gonna be even better when I drink my coffee after having this.
Yeah, I think Fireball is like Dr. Pepper.
Not bad. Okay, so
gonna burn my throat.
I watched this movie because you recommended it.
I did.
I watched the first half on the flight back from Guatemala, actually, on my iPad.
Oh, the Flamin' Hot movie?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then I fell asleep, not because of the movie, but I woke up at like 3:45 that morning because I couldn't sleep, and I worked out at the gym before I got back on the plane.
Good job,
back
by the
here.
way. You you're keeping up your workout regimen. And for those that are watching, I mean, last year, we probably traveled, 30, 40 days together or something like that?
At least that, yeah.
So, I mean, you know, Jonathan does yoga, he works out, but...
Here's the coffee, by the way. Let's see how the coffee tastes after.
Yeah, what does it taste like? You might get an idea for Flamin' Hot coffee.
Oh, it does not work well at all with that.
I bet not.
I have to cleanse my palate.
Wait, so you're watching it on the way home, right?
Yeah, then I fell asleep because I was tired, and then I got home, and then I watched the rest of it.
Okay.
So overall, I mean, I liked it. I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of movies that do a lot of voiceovers. I prefer them without voiceovers. I think there's only one movie I've ever seen that I really like the voiceover of.
Yeah.
Which is Goodfellas.
Yeah. I
like that. I did appreciate in the movie when they were trying to show the difference between, like, they were having, like, the white businessmen, like, talk like he does, and he's lip syncing to them and stuff like that, and it shows what they really said. It was like, okay.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. That was funny. I like that a lot.
He was doing his cholo narration over their American dialogue.
Yeah.
It's funny you bring that up. I can see your point on that. They do that a lot excessively, the narration. I thought it was creative to do the little cholo talk over it.
Yeah.
I think it becomes a little much. I think that it teeters, I don't know if that's the right word, between like okay, are you being humorous or serious now? And it has a lot of heartfelt moments, but it also gets really silly and funny. And I think those are to me was the struggle, because it's like, you don't know which way to take it in what moment sometimes. But yeah, I like narrations, but I think we're going to end up eating this the whole time.
I think so, probably. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think it worked better than it usually did. Yeah. And also showing how he remembered the moment. And it was funny is because even though like the story is probably fake, him elaborating and trying to make him seem like when he goes to the presentation to the CEO and everyone's like clapping and cheering and he's like, oh no, it actually went kind of more like this. I'm like, yeah. I wonder if they added it in afterwards just to sort of acknowledge like, hey, that might be BS after all. But
oh my gosh. I feel like you're convinced that it's BS.
I don't know. Like
I don't know. I'm like,
it doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me if it's a lie or not, because movies are inherently lies.
Yeah, that's true.
But they're lies that do reveal truths.
Oof, that's deep,
isn't it?
That is deep.
A lot of deep thoughts into it.
So is there such thing as a good lie only when making films?
That's maybe the most wise thing you've ever said.
Oh, so I hope not.
Yeah. I think my favorite part was when he was a kid and showing him hustling with the burritos and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then, but it also broke my heart when that cop thought he stole all that money he had made legitimately.
Yeah.
Like that was depressing. I thought, man, that definitely happened. It's definitely still happening and will be happening for a while because they just people don't trust people of certain colors sometimes, which is a real shame.
Yeah. And it's funny because the reason I really wanted you to see it was, honestly, I just wanted to see your perspective from your background. What did this movie make you feel? Anything? Did it inspiring? And I think it's sad because in some ways I'm like, would a Latin story inspire you? Mm-hmm. Or is it just for Latino people? And the reality is, no, a true story with a hero protagonist should inspire anybody.
Yeah, it was very inspiring to show what you can do with hard work. A little, you see an opportunity. Well, here's the thing. People would say like, filmmaking, acting, directing, whatever you do in the film industry, people call it, it's a lottery. You don't know how, you just got to get lucky. I'm like, I don't think so, because it does require some amount of skill to do it. I equate this industry, and a lot of industries are like this too. It's more like poker, especially like Texas Hold'em or something like that. Is you get dealt a lot of bad hands, and you got to fold, you got to take the loss. But once in a while, you get that hand. You get an amazing hand. But if you don't know how to play it right, people will know you have a good hand and they'll fold. You won't be able to get that jackpot. You won't be able to get that huge win. So when you're given the opportunity, can you take advantage of it?
Wow.
That's what I think it is, yeah.
Do you have these all written down somewhere?
No, this is all in my head, man.
I didn't write any of mine down. I don't have any of my one-liners down.
I make so many jokes and mess around so much on set that people don't realize I have wisdom to impart.
Yeah, you're a deep individual, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's a perfect way to look at it. Also, too, being patient.
100%. Yeah,
being patient when you're playing your card game. You got to be patient. You have to be observant. And to your point, it's funny you say that. I feel like that's the advice I give anybody that has a dream. It's like you got to get ready because there's going to be a moment where opportunity comes to you, and are you ready?
Oh yeah. Well, imagine when we first met. If I had just gone ahead and no, I'm not going to deliver those lights to you. I'm too busy. I don't feel like it. If I hadn't done that and actually like went on set and actually helped you guys out, I wouldn't have had my first American theatrical release. So
there you go. With a Latino guy, which is this is all a true story. Yeah.
No,
I'm just.
And this is a true story.
This is a true story. Yeah. There you go. But the other part too is that I have to also say this is because I think this is a slippery slope in the industry that we're in, and a lot of industries, that our motivation for why we show kindness or help people is in the wrong place. So like, for example, for you, obviously there's a business component to helping us out, but I also think that you generally want to help people. So then I feel like in the short term, if you're just doing all these things to get something out of somebody, it's going to dry up quick.
But people can tell when you're just using them, essentially.
And I think that's the thing I realized the most when I got into the film production world. Well, there's a lot of empty promises, a lot of I'll get you here, I'll get you back, and so then that's why you start looking for people that like really believe in the stories you're trying to tell and the art you're trying to create. And I think I genuinely felt that with you versus, we get hit up all the time. You get this all the time too, where it's like, hey, I'll do this for free, and it's like, great, free isn't really free.
Oh, the worst is when they're like, oh, I want to collaborate with you on something.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it has to be a really good script. a really good project. And
we talked about this about Star Wars and Spielberg and Lucas. Were like back in those days, these like really talented individuals would cross support each other and would give each other feedback. And the problem is that a lot of times we're just looking for the quick way to success versus building a camaraderie around people that can help you grow your art and that actually care about your art. You know what I mean? So I think, I say that because I think to get into the film world is so difficult. But if you really have more intentionality, yes, it's going to take longer, but I think it's actually going to render some better results than short-term wins that everybody wants because we're all impatient.
Yeah, and you look at tons of people out there who had success really early on, and they burned their bridges. They didn't have the discipline for it. You look at the guy who did Boondock Saints. He burned all his bridges. Wow. Or you look at someone like Lindsay Lohan who had success early on, and she couldn't handle it. Wow. So, but then you have people who get success later on, and they're disciplined enough to handle it. So that's what I hope happens with everything we're doing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, we always get sidetracked on this. We talk about like life and everything, but we should talk about the movie too, right?
Yeah.
There's only one moment in the entire movie that kind of like threw me off and felt kind of fake to me.
Oh, please tell me.
Yeah. It was when he first told his wife, hey, we're going to go ahead and try making these new Cheetos. And she's like, well, what about this and that? How are you going to find a job? How are you going to support your family, et cetera, et cetera? I forget the exact lines, but I'm like, it was a very cliched moment. I'm like, they could have done something different with that, but it just felt like, oh, we got to spruce it up and raise the stakes. So we're going to go ahead and have his wife say, like, you got to support your family. This is too risky. And it wasn't really that risky, actually, to do it. But it did set up the conflict with his dad a bit more, which was good.
Why you got to harp on this guy, man?
I'm not harping on this guy. I'm harping on the people whoever wrote that line of dialogue. No, that's all.
So, and this is my take on it. Sometimes when you say too much, it's actually a detriment. So I think
it is less is more.
I think the movie has too much dialogue that too much, versus so that it's almost like they have to if you notice the movie had a lot of difficulties, like the guy kept going through thing after thing after thing, which is great storytelling. And then this happened, and then this happened, but then you had these little sprinkle of moments that were like, I'm not sure that added here nor there. I don't think it was a time filler, but I think it was just trying to create more character development for the sake of character development, opposed to actually like, okay, is this another layer that's pushing towards, a greater purpose in the film? I felt like it was too dialogue heavy. And there was a lot of moments, I kind of in some ways felt the faith aspect in the movie was a tiny bit forced. I don't know if that's the right word, but I appreciate that it did that. And I don't
think it did. I think it was just enough.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was just enough.
And it wasn't like, I'm not saying it was over the top or too much. It just felt like, I don't know. Honestly, I did not expect it. So that was a wonderful surprise. But it just, I don't know. It felt kind of like I had to say it because I have to say it. But see, that's the beauty about movies, right? Like I showed it to my brother, my brother Dan, and he's like, yeah, it was okay. And I'm like, man, I got teary-eyed like 5 parts of the movie. He's like, why? And I guess it just hits everyone different.
Well, the reason why I don't think the faith thing was too forced was because when his dad, who beat him as a kid.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully you guys have seen the movie at this point. When he's born again and he's talking about it and still acting like he's better than his son, the main character. And then he's like, why don't his wife is like, why don't you worry about saving yourself first before you try to save your son and my husband? Because he's still acting bad. And it just shows that just because, you still have to make amends for what you did in the past.
Yeah.
Like, it's for everyone. It's like, when you're an addict and one of the 12 steps is that you have to make amends to everyone, which it looks like he hadn't done that yet, at least in the context of the film.
That was a powerful moment in the film. Yeah. Hopefully we didn't ruin it for you, but I will say that was fantastic the way they did that because, it's like what happens next, what happens, and then it's just like it just blew up, and that was such a fantastic way they did that, and you could just tell this guy has just so much anger pent up in him, and they developed that really well. I just don't know. I don't know. I to be quite frank, I don't even remember how did Richard actually come to faith? Was there a moment of that? I don't really remember. I just remember there was a reconciliation.
Yes, he does. He does go ahead and says that he lights the candle that his wife does for him, and that's sort of saying like, okay, he's found his faith now, essentially. So, which is why I don't think it's over the top.
Yeah, that's true. Throw some candles in and you're good.
Exactly, right? Because the candle is symbolic. You go and you light a candle for. At least I was raised Catholic, so you go light a candle for loved ones who have passed away and stuff like that.
Oh,
I never did that, but that's what I was told I should do.
I never did
Maybe
that
I
either.
should do that, actually. Yeah.
I did like that line, though.
Yeah.
I will say I liked the line that his wife in the movie said. She said something about like this Cholita found Jesus or something like that. Like basically she was crazy, but then she found Jesus or something like that. But I just like the way she phrased it. Like I think she was saying how she wasn't perfect. She was a crazy, whatever. But then she got smart and found Jesus.
Yeah.
In her own words. So I also just, man, like in the 90s, like Blood In, Blood Out, those very cholo movies. Oh my gosh. Like watching some of that stuff, man, it just, I don't know why it makes me smile, and I just love it because I still want a pair of Cortezes. And I remember growing up, like, I don't think my parents would let me get a pair of Nike Cortezes, but man, do I want a pair after watching that movie.
I
want you to see you wear Cortezes on
I've
set.
been on set with Damien Chapa before, by the way.
Really? You've been on set with a bunch of people that I wish I was on set with.
No, you don't. That is the worst set I've ever been on in my entire life.
Well,
exploitative, and I felt dirty after being on that set for an hour.
Why is
it was a really low budget thing that he was directing, and it was a very terrible experience.
Why is it that I've seen so many exploitative moments on set.
Yeah.
And some of these are not even the biggest sets. I'm like, why? Why is that such a...
Who knows? I can't go into it. Maybe I'll tell you off the air what happened, because we'd get flagged if I told you what happened from YouTube.
No, don't get flagged.
It would be, it's bad. It was bad. I
have people DM you.
Yeah.
No, for my stuff has just been like, just verbal abuse, like stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I've seen. I'm sure there's other stuff, but it's just one of those things like, why is that necessary?
Because they got to feel better about themselves. Especially like some of the older people who've been in this industry for a while who never really got the success they wanted. I think they started getting bitter and stuff like that. I like that at the end.
Yeah.
When he's giving tips to everyone at the restaurant and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he's actually like that in real life, because it shows he didn't forget where he came from, and he's very generous with his success.
Yeah.
Because so many people when they're successful, they get very stingy and get very defensive, and they put up a lot of walls and they don't let anyone else in.
Wow.
Gotta be careful. I feel like I'm blowing your mind every 5 minutes here, Manny.
Well, and maybe because I'm a student of life, and I'm looking.
Never stop being a student. Never stop being a servant.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
See, you're full of them. I'm telling you, I know they're on that iPad. I didn't bring an iPad.
Yeah.
I'm eating all the chips.
Oh, no, I'm just here looking at some of the details about the production of the film and stuff like that.
Don't buy that, audience. Don't buy that. They can't see that.
Yeah. I loved Tony Shalhoub in it, by the way. The CEO, Roger Enrico.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, he did such a great job.
Yeah.
The casting was great too, by the way.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think everyone, like Matt Walsh again as the shift leader and stuff like that. Him finally, of course, it's like you see him not trusting.
Yeah.
Richard, they of course come to terms, and of course Dennis Haysbert as the machine.
Yeah.
Guy. He's always awesome in everything.
Oh my
gosh.
Yeah. I also love it when a movie will nod to something that's in a real world scenario. So you remember that part where they're rehearsing the lines with Richard in an office, and they're like, the Latino market will not be ignored. And he tells them, now say it in your voice.
Yeah.
Because he was saying in his commercial voice. And see, I love lines like that. Like that to me was very clever, because the depthness of that line is, you got to do it your way, and that's my biggest thing with films, man. Like making a movie is too hard to try to copy somebody else. Yeah. And they say, what is it? Imitation is flattering, which I can see that. But the idea is that, man, making a film is so difficult, especially if you actually care about the film you're making. You might as well put your style, your personality into it. And you have no idea whether someone might actually really like it,
Imitation is the highest form of flattery, and you have to put yourself into it. Look at how many people have tried to imitate like Quentin Tarantino's style of filmmaking. Every time they try to do it, it just fails miserably.
Yeah. Do you know that firsthand?
No, I've never tried to imitate Tarantino. As much as I like his work, I don't try to imitate anyone, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I'd take bits and pieces of different filmmakers.
You just try to imitate yourself?
Exactly, because I'm the greatest filmmaker I know. No.
Yeah.
We're always learning. What you said reminds me of. You've seen the original Matrix, of course, the first Matrix movie.
Oh yeah. Who hasn't?
You've heard that this woman claims that she wrote the original drafts she wrote the story that James Cameron stole Terminator from her, and the Wachowski stole the Matrix
from her too.
Yeah, and I'm like, two of the biggest sci-fi franchises of all time were you. Yeah, right. But the fact, if you watch The Matrix.
Yeah.
As often as I have, I mean, there's too much of the director's in there. There's no way, even if they'd stolen the script from her, like they made it their own. Like, they didn't. There's no way that it happened like that. You put too much. Yeah. A good filmmaker, you can tell it's their film. You can tell it's their work. They put everything into it, essentially.
I think it's the non-tangibles that create the strongest personalities in films. And like, okay, what does that mean? Because I think, when you work in the, in the business, you think you got to be able to, do everything or know everything. But really, like, when someone walks on set and they vibe off you and they go, you know what, I feel like I have the freedom to contribute, to collaborate, or that strong vision. Like, I don't know, you ever work with someone that's like, man, like, they don't have to say much, but you're kind of pulled towards the vision. And I think some of these guys are just like that. And obviously some of them are just loud and know exactly what they want, are very forceful. But that's what I love about what we do, is that, you'll be known by obviously what's on the screen, but also what people say around you. And that's the crazy part. Your reputation is the most important part. It
is. And you can see it in some directors or earlier work when you can tell when they start getting too full of themselves because the work starts to suffer. It's not as good. And there's a sort of a well-known joke on most movie sets. Usually the least experienced person on set is a director.
Oh,
because they're being hired for their vision. Usually they're not about the technical skill.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I first started out, like I didn't know anything technically, so I relied on other people to kind of help me figure it out. And then like when we're on set, I'm DPing or whatever else, you're relying on me and the crew to get it done. It's like, you're not going to know exactly how it's done. And there's certain times I've been on set, I don't know how they're going to do this, but I've hired the right people, hopefully, who know more than me, and they're going to make it happen. I'm just there to help like direct the actors and stuff like that and make sure what I want to get done gets done.
I think it's knowing your strengths and weaknesses too,
Yeah.
If you know what you're capable of, then you got to surround yourself with people that are able to do what you can't. And I think you got to have that posture, humility, because if you have to explain yourself of why someone should trust you or should follow your lead, then I'm not sure you're doing it right, And I think one thing I've always enjoyed about our working relationship is that, like, I like to think I'm very candid. What is it? I think it's kind of candid, the word, but intuitive in the sense of like, if we plan for a day and that setup just doesn't feel right, we'll switch it. And your posture is always like, okay, well, what exactly do you want? And then we'll reconfigure it. Versus some people will go, oh no, we planned this all out. No, we got to stick to it, etc. And to me, it's just like, I don't know. I'm chasing more of a feeling and this thing to it. So, and I would hope that lends to what you see on the other side of the screen. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you can focus on the most prettiest shot and lose all the emotion and feeling and moment because I don't know. You focus on everything else but what's actually happening within the frame. But again, you got to have like-minded people that are willing to go to bat with you and go further with you.
Oh yeah, you got to. I'd like to over-prepare before a shoot because it allows us room to kind of like mess around if we want and see what kind of like. A lot of the best moments are happy accidents.
Yeah, and planning is a big part of it, to be honest with you. And I've learned through working together and with other folks, it's like, just because you might think whoever you are is like you're a creative genius that can make things up on the spot. Not everyone works the way your brain works, so you have to give them a basis to where they can show up armed on set in case you do switch things around.
Yeah, and they won't be able to keep up with you.
Yeah, and that's the worst feeling, man, when you feel like you left something on the table. Like I like the feeling, and I like it and I dislike it when I'm on set and I feel like, man, I wish I could have got another half a day there or a couple more shots there, but I don't feel like I didn't take the shot, if that makes sense. Our shots.
Or coming away like, man, that was a waste of a day. We shouldn't have ever filmed there.
Honestly, even the days that I felt that way, later I've always felt pretty good about it. Like, it's crazy how insecure we are when we film, at least for me. And I go, man, I hope any of it's good. Yeah. And you come back and you're actually very impressed. And I think that's kind of the insane part of nurturing your creativity, where you kind of have to know what you're capable of doing, how dangerous you are when it comes to producing or directing, or if you're behind the camera, because then you know that basically I can't guarantee that it's going to be what I want it to be per se, but I know if I put this much sweat into it, this much thought, this much intentionality, this much creativity, it should render somewhere in that ball field or whatever ballpark. That's the word.
Yeah. That makes sense. So speaking of being a director on set, this is the first feature Ava Longoria has ever done.
Yeah.
I looked her up now. She's done a lot of actually TV episodes.
I think she did
Something
great.
like that, yeah.
I hope she does more. I think she did a phenomenal job. I think the story is great.
Did you feel a voice from her? Did you feel like something distinct?
It's tough to tell on the first one, but what I will say is,
It's very hard to. Yeah.
I think I think she honored our Latin culture really well. I think the Spanish was on top of it. The cultural aspects of it were great, so I think she has a good eye, good taste. It looked great. The performances are great. I mean, I don't know about you. Did you see a performance that you didn't like in the film? I can't say I don't. I think it would just be some of the dialogue, or was that necessary, or was that scene necessary? But performances were great. So, I think for me, what I judge a director by is, did you take this story to a new place that my imagination has not yet been? And again, the dialogue thing was really, I thought, the narration of his Cholo version of the board meeting.
That was the most distinct to me.
Yeah, that was very creative.
And then again, go back to the cop who arrested him as a kid.
Yeah.
But it also goes back to the burrito thing was so important. I didn't even think about this feels like a waste of time. I mean, I know it's setting up how he becomes a criminal and stuff like that. But then when it goes to, it's like we have to sell the burrito. It goes back to that and everything.
Yeah.
And it does show how he met his wife and such, which is important. Which is probably the only time where I wished there wasn't voiceover. If they'd just gone to cut to the future and okay, that's her. We didn't have to be told.
Yeah.
But it's fine. That's my critiques don't really matter in the context of it, because this is the story she wanted to tell, and it worked, so it was fine.
And you know what the crazy part about this whole conversation is, that we have no idea what the original plan was. We just know what happened on the outside.
It's true.
So they might have added all those things to fill in other takes or performances that weren't great, or holes in the script. The other thing I was going to say, the part that got me really emotional was Richard's grandfather tells him to say, Montanez, to kind of have say his name with confidence, and they kind of flash back to that later. And I feel like we get really emotional about things that we either never had or wish we had, and I never really had a living grandfather that I wish would have gave me something like that.
Yeah.
So that got me in the feels. Do you know what I mean? And then when you come from a Latin culture, it's not that your last name's everything. It's that you don't really. I mean, especially if you're immigrating to this country, you don't really have much to put your hat on. So it's your family name and reputation is a big deal, because I mean, it's not like what else would you put your hat on? It's if you're new to this country, you know
need something to hold on to that you can say is yours.
There you go, man. It's that coffee. That's the one-liner. You should use that one.
Yeah. When I watched that scene, I actually think to myself, I didn't really feel anything for it, but I knew some people would probably really like it.
Oh, really?
Because my family name isn't really anything to talk. It's literally Coco. I mean, that's my family name, and I was mocked so much for that name growing up. I was never really that proud of it. I'm proud of it now, just because it's so unique. I've gotten work because of my name.
Really?
Because when you first start out and you're submitting for all these jobs and stuff like that, I got hired to write this Korean horror film. I was several hundred applicants, I think.
Wow.
And then I was at a film, like a screening of a bunch of short films.
Yeah.
I'd written a short film for this Korean director. And after the screening, these two women walk up to me. He's like, "Are you Jonathan Coco?" I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, you applied for this thing. I was on Manny.com. And it's like,
wow.
We remember your last name, and we talked for a bit, and okay, we're going to hire you. So it was a combination of my name and also the fact they happened to show up at a screening of a movie I'd written and stuff. This is before I was a director. I was just writing back then.
It's a very memorable last name. It's very unique. The other thing, too, is that you lean into your personality in a good way. So, for example, like if you have a awkward last name or awkward name or whatever about you is not as shiny, I bet you could find one thing that you could lean into to really try to connect those two. Yeah. Because I can't even think of a last name, but let's say you had a really obscure, super obscure last name, but you're this bright, colorful, helpful person. They're just going to equate that guy to being the nice, colorful person. Yeah. And I think a lot of times it's so crazy how your name, your ability to communicate. Actually, I think that's the most important skill set we could have in life.
Oh, 100%. Well, how to communicate. It's communication and collaboration is what's super important. What's funny is, what does everyone call me on set now when I'm on set with
Coco.
you? 5 or 6 years ago, that would have made me mad.
Oh wow!
Because I didn't like the idea of being called Coco. It's like, no, my name is Jonathan, so you're going to call me Jonathan now.
You need your Richard Montanes scene where your grandfather tells you to say Coco.
Well, I mean, if I'd grown up with my Catholic grandfather, because he's in Jersey, he's still alive actually, he probably would have put that into me, but because I never really got to hang out with him too much as a young kid, I never got to have a conversation with him.
Yeah.
So maybe
we both have grandfather
issues.
Yeah. Issues.
But I know in Italian culture, last name is huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Like I was the first of the new generation to bear the name Coco.
Oh, really?
And that was a big deal with my Italian grandparents and stuff like that. So yeah. There's something there for sure.
What was that joke you told me? You should probably cut it out, but I'm going to say it anyways in case it's acceptable. Yeah. Didn't I tell you like, oh, Guatemala's a third world country, and you said Jersey's a third world country?
Oh, Jersey is that's something we could say. I mean, it's like, you asked me, it's like, so you ever been to a third world country before? I'm like, well, Jersey.
Oh my God.
People will laugh about that. It's fine.
That's the funny thing too, man. Like we have to be able to laugh about
100%. Yeah.
The silly, truthful things, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just the color of life. And how could you get better? You know, there's nothing better than being able to laugh at the things that you suck at.
Yeah.
So that way you can grow. Or else you're just going to be bitter about the things you suck at.
Yeah.
So you have a choice: laugh about it or
exactly. And which happens in this movie when people say, no, you can't go talk to the machinist. That's completely improper.
Yeah.
And he has a joke about it and stuff like that. So offers him the burrito, and then he's like, oh, this is wrong. And he's like, you got any hot sauce with that? You know. So he used humor in this movie a lot to diffuse situations for sure.
Yeah, and it's that principle of use what you got. You know what I mean? That's what he did. It was that really bad joke. It was cheesy. It was funny, but it was cheesy. What did he say? When he went to apply at Frito-Lay's, he says, I have a PhD. Poor, hungry, and determined.
Yeah, whatever. And he lied about graduating high school and stuff like that.
His wife filled out the...
Yeah.
But you know what's crazy about? So much of that stuff is real life because some people that come, you know, that immigrate here still don't know how to read or write in English, and that's a normal, typical thing. So those were the moments that I teared up, were the moments that, like, you know, when you're being, you know, unfortunately discriminated on because of, you know, where you're from. Like, me and my brothers have faced that, but it makes me emotional because, you know, you're going to have those moments. You just got to overcome it. And, was there a moment where you felt emotional on at all?
I like the scene where the machinist takes him up and is like, can you listen? Can you hear this and that and everything?
Oh, wow.
It's like, I can tell this is wrong. This is off. This is running smoothly. So, and the main guy's like, I don't hear anything. He's like, well, when I'm done with you, you're going to. There's a saying is that when I'm full of these today, aren't I? When the student is willing, the teacher will appear. Kind of
when
thing.
The student is willing,
the teacher will appear. Or when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, or something.
Yeah.
Some version of that.
Yeah.
So it's always like, I mean, being a big Star Wars fan and just like the hero's journey and stuff like that. When you see someone taking those first steps to master a craft, master a skill, that's always so exciting because I love learning stuff. So to me, one of the most exciting things in this world is like when I can like open up that first video, YouTube tutorial video or something like that.
Yeah.
This is the beginning of a journey of learning something new. That's always fun. Like I just started learning how to use like AI artwork and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Those first few times when you start figuring out like, oh, this is a lot of fun. Then you get into the more hard work stuff like, oh, this is exhausting kind of thing. But you're going to keep pushing forward. You're going to keep doing it. And he pushed forward. He did it. So that was inspiring.
He definitely did it in this movie.
Oh, yeah. Who knows what happened in real life. Well, here's something that's a little controversial we can talk about here.
Cool.
You know what a white savior is, right?
Yeah, I've heard the term. Is it basically someone who's giving you everything you think you need to make it, and because of them you made it?
Well, and it's the idea is that the only person that can help, get that LaCroix, get that water.
The coffee just not.
It doesn't work.
It actually is really horrible.
You know, they probably have Flaming Hot like coffee creamer, I bet.
Oh my God! I mean,
but
$1 billion chip.
Yeah, right.
They said it was $1 billion.
Exactly. The brand is $1 billion, whatever. So the idea is that the only way for someone of a impoverished group or a minority, the only way they can succeed is if a white person says, anoints you basically as being successful, kind of thing. Did you feel any of that in this movie?
Oh, yeah, it is controversial. By the way, I love that me and you could have this conversation, and even we have obviously some different views in other realms and stuff. But man, it's no greater joy for me to just honestly open this up because I think a lot of people shy away from it. I didn't.
It's an important thing.
You know what's funny? I think I did feel that in the movie, but I didn't care about it. So I don't know how that applies to your question, because I could see how there were some of those like, you know, moments, but I think everybody thinks they're your savior. Everyone thinks that they're the way you're gonna get there, and I just never grew up with that mentality. My parents never gave me that, so maybe I just block it out. But I could see how it might be in the film. What did you think?
A little bit, but it's also the nature of the world, unfortunately.
Yeah.
In this country, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it's still to some extent.
Yeah.
So that time period, I mean, the only way for him to get ahead is for a white person who is in charge to say, okay, I'm going to take a chance on you, kind of thing. But we go back to the whole like poker analogy I used for the film industry.
Yeah.
It comes back around and it's like he had the opportunity and he took it and he's able to make it work, regardless of whether or not, like, if it's affirmative action, if it's, you know, again, white savior complex, if it's something else, is that there's always a system you have to, if you want to be successful in this world, you have to identify the system.
Yeah.
Look for opportunities. Whether you want to see her exploiting it or playing the game, whatever terminology you want to use, is that you have to take advantage of it.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think you got to do what you got to do. And, you know, I heard this one thought that, you know, sometimes I'm going to call it the underdog, because I think you could still be, you know, a white person and still be an underdog or minority. You know, if you come to Guatemala, you're a minority, right? But I was like you were very much the minority.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, it was like 9 people in the group. I'm the only white person, and I'm the only person who doesn't speak Spanish in the whole group.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the last day of filming, we go to that area where they're the poorer area where they're donating the houses that were built. And I see there's other white people here who don't speak Spanish. I feel like
you felt seen there.
I guess a little. There was a sense of camaraderie, so I could understand where like when you come to like when people immigrate to this country or another country, and like you're the minority, and you see other people of your race. Yeah. Like, oh, I immediately feel a connection with them for sure. They said the people there. They said they were going to be coming here to go to get some beer at Hangar 24.
Oh,
and
what?
Like, we followed each other on Instagram. So it's like, go ahead, hit me up when you're here. Maybe we're gonna have a beer or something like that.
Such a small world. What I was gonna say was sometimes we're looking for a hand, not a handout, and sometimes the problem is that, you know, regardless of what your perception is, I think it's all a mentality game. And like even like in what we're doing, we're talking about like. So do you ever wonder, like, how am I going to direct my first film, produce my first film, or DP my first film, or get on a bigger or have a better opportunity? Well, the greatest place to begin is in your mind, and you can't give out permission to other people to tell you when you're essentially ready. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get ready, like what you've been talking about.
Yep.
So even with like the film and stuff like that, I love that they just told it like it is. And to your point, at that time, that's probably what it was like. And whether people believe it or not, it's still a little bit like that sometimes. But at the same time, there's probably a lot less of it too. And that's a good thing. I mean, it's one of those things like I hope it's still not like that. But the reality is if we erase history, then we can't learn from it. And
we have to. Even like the horrible parts about our histories are really important.
Yeah. And I mean, and who do we think we are that we're that perfect? You know what I mean? Like I would actually mistrust someone who wouldn't want to disclose what their weaknesses or mistakes have been, let alone work with someone like that. And that's kind of what we do. Like we will postmortem after a shoot. This is what we should have done better. Yeah, and we try to make it better.
I'm always criticizing myself all the time. Like I got to know how did I mess this up? What did I do wrong?
Yeah,
that's the only way to get better. If you think you're always right, always perfect, no matter what, you're never going to grow. And if you're never going to grow, you have like being an artist. Yeah, because what we're doing, we're pursuing forms of artistic expression. If we can't do that, then like, we failed already in our craft, essentially.
You mentioned earlier about you love the learning aspect. I feel like the learning aspect is not my favorite part. My favorite part is chasing the idea or the imagination. It just happens to be that the learning part is the most important part to get you to that.
It is 100%,
to the payoff. You know what I mean? It's a tough discipline, man, and it takes a lot of work. Did you feel like it was heavy-handed on? Yeah, I don't think it like villainized, white people or anything. Did you feel that?
I think the only person they villainized was the executive who was trying to shut it down. And I was watching and I'm thinking like,
But also the plant leader, though. He was pretty...
Which one?
The plant leader.
Yeah, he wasn't as bad. He was more like no nonsense because he'd probably seen stuff like this before. But I think it was that executive who was trying to shut it down without putting any money into the marketing. Part of me says that was manufactured, but also going back to it, like he probably, if that was real, he probably didn't like it because it was a person, of non-white descent. What's the most peaceful way of saying it? Like, well,
I know. I was gonna say of light complexion.
Yeah. So, that wouldn't surprise me. I'm sure there's a lot of things back in the day just because different race, they're going to shut it down.
Well, the Irish and the Italians, I'm sure they went through a lot of discrimination back in the day coming to America.
Back in Jersey, third world country, by the way. My dad's family, only Italians on a block of Irish. That's crazy. They were harassed nonstop.
I know it's crazy. In that culture is so rich. I mean, who doesn't eat Italian food? Who doesn't like a good
what
Italian
we should
movie?
do is next time you're on here, we should talk about The Godfather, so we can talk about my people's
background
and how I think I mentioned before about like the racial implications of The Godfather and stuff like that, and what it meant for like Italian Americans.
See, that's what I'm saying. We need a Godfather. What's the Latino Godfather?
Flamin Hot,
Nacho Libre. You know what I mean? Like I mean, do we have one? I don't know. People
is
put
there?
that.
I mean, look at like Scarface is a parody. That's Cuban. I don't know. Is Cuban considered Latin?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you
I
speak
feel
Spanish,
like it does err in the side of satire parody with this kind of stuff. Does it?
I feel like it's. I don't know that Scarface is our Godfather, even though I could see the comparison you're making it. Yeah. But I don't know, man. I'm telling you. Put it this way:
plus, having an Italian play a Cuban isn't cool.
If I cannot think of one on the top of my head like that, it doesn't mean we have enough. Like the first Italian one to me is Rocky. Yeah, and it happens to be one of the biggest movies ever.
Yeah. Well, Manny, you got to go make one then.
I got to make the Spanish Rocky.
Yeah. Isn't Andy Garcia's Cuban, right?
Andy Garcia, is he an actor?
He's an actor, yeah.
Which one is he?
Let me check it. He was in Godfather Part 3, now that I think about it.
Okay.
It just came to me.
My mind went, this is the worst part. My mind went to boxing.
Really?
There's a Latino.
Well, you have Al Pacino playing a Cuban. He's an Italian playing a Cuban.
Oh, yeah. And that was interesting.
Let me double check and see. So,
Andy Garcia was a handsome, thinner guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he plays his nephew. So if he's a Cuban playing an Italian, everything balances out. No, it doesn't. It doesn't balance out.
Yeah, people are just crazy.
He is Cuban, yeah.
Oh, he is Cuban, yeah.
So there's some crossover.
What's his character name? Do you have it on there?
In what?
In the Scarface.
In Scarface? Oh no, he's not in Scarface. He's in Godfather Part 3.
Oh,
you're talking about Al Pacino?
Okay.
Tony Montana is right.
Tony Montana.
Montañez or whatever.
Montañez.
Well, Scarface is a remake of a movie from like the 30s, and they're remaking it again, I think.
That always blows my mind when movies get remade and you don't even know the original. I just watched a movie called, have you seen Ben-Hur by chance?
Yeah.
So I've never seen it. My wife's like, you need to watch it. Yeah. And I was like, well, why don't I just watch the modern version? She's like, oh, it's not as good as the original.
No, but the original isn't the original. There's 2 other versions before it.
Really?
And there was an animated one. So this is actually the one that was just made with, was it Danny Houston was the... I forget the name of the actor in it, but that's like the 5th movie they've made off that book.
But Ben-Hur was done like in 59 or something, wasn't it?
In the 20s or 30s.
Oh, there's an older one than the one I saw.
Yeah, the silent film.
Oh, wow.
I think the Charlton Heston one was like 50-something.
That's the one I saw.
Yeah, I've seen. Yeah, that's the most famous one, obviously.
Yeah. Talk about like production value, man. All those extra. I love that one of the shots, the character's up front and like he's overlooking like let's say this valley, but you could totally tell. I'm pretty positive it was like a painted background.
That's how I had to do it back then. There's no way to do it.
I just love these old school camera tricks. You know what I mean? It was so. It was a good film though. I enjoy. I've never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, and then I ended up watching the newest version of it. Right, the trailer. I didn't want to go watch it because it just felt too loud. You know,
that's the way it is now. So
everything has to blow up now.
Everything has to blow up. Everything's got to be hot.
Like Fast and Furious. You know?
Yeah. They should do a Flamin Hot Fast and Furious franchise or something like that. I do see. I'm looking through it. They have ice cream, Flamin Hot ice cream. Oh, here we go. 11 crazy dishes made with Flamin Hot.
Oh my god.
Then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
Let's see. Before I get into this, anything else you want to talk about the film wise or?
No, I would say this. What's the greatest film advice you've been given?
From this movie or
no, anybody in general?
I think just always be open to be okay with making mistakes.
Yeah.
With failing. Takes a little more from failing.
Yeah, we tend to live or die on every single project, and yeah, I think I've said this annoyingly enough. Where like, this isn't your last film, and if it's your last film, then like, man, I would not be in this career if that's your last film, because you're one and done. You know.
What if you're like 97 and you're like, I think this is my last film?
Yeah, you know.
Or you want to die directing? You want to die on set?
No, I would not want to die on set. That would be embarrassing. It's so funny. I think about death sometimes. I'm like, man, I just hope it's not an embarrassing type of death. You know, I just want to lay in bed and go out dreaming. Go out dreaming.
Die peacefully, right? Yeah. Go out dreaming. There you go. Okay, so they have ice cream flavoring. They have sprinkles. You can put Flamin Hot sprinkles.
Really?
On ice cream, yeah.
Oh, that
sounds crazy to me.
At all.
They have, was it macarons?
Really?
Flamin Hot macarons, yeah.
Isn't that Italian?
It's
the macarons?
It's more French. It's in Texas.
Okay, cool.
Let's see. I mean, a hot dog. That's obvious.
Oh,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chocolate banana, kind of chocolate covered banana.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That choco banano. That's pretty popular. We had. That
no, sorry. It's corn. I mean, a burger. That makes sense. Pizza makes sense to me.
Oh, I've never done that with a pizza.
Mac and cheese.
I seen that before. Dude, I'll tell you the way we used to eat these as kids. So when we
hot Cheetos donut.
Oh gosh, that's nasty.
Yeah.
We used to put this lime juice in it.
Yeah.
And it gets super full of lime, and it tasted amazing. And that's the way they would serve it to you outside of the elementary school when we were growing up in LA.
Here we go. Actually, I wonder if this is in Garden Grove they do this.
What is it?
Hot Cheetorito at the Low Key Poke Joint. So it's basically a sushi burrito, and the casing around it is Flaming Hot Cheetos.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's interesting right there. And then one more here. A bagel. That's okay. That makes sense. Like
a hot Cheeto bagel.
Yeah. So there you go. So yeah, I might start eating these again. Actually,
are they too hot for you?
No,
you like spicy.
No, in Guatemala, I was like, people were like, "Oh, don't eat that; it's too spicy." I'm like, "Nah, I got this."
You got to go to Mexico. Guatemala is not known for too much spice, but Mexico is. Yeah. Well, then you're talking, man.
I've
the kids are eating habanero.
I've eaten ghost peppers before, like dried ghost peppers. The way I decided something's hot is the right level of hotness for like really making it spicy. Is I have to have regret immediately after eating it.
Oh shoot!
Yeah. I said now.
That's a good way.
Within a few minutes, I need to regret what I just did.
One time I went to this Peruvian restaurant in Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah.
And someone took us out to eat there. It was so hot that I had to go to the bathroom, and I wasn't just sweating, but I just felt like I had to vomit.
Yeah.
Because it was so hot.
Yeah.
It's called Dos Molinos. I think.
Okay. If I ever
don't
where's
go
it
there.
at again?
It's in Mesa, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next time I'm out there. That show, Hot Ones. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So it was just that Jennifer Lawrence was on there promoting her new movie.
Jennifer Lawrence. Oh,
yeah. What's it? The one where she's dating the kid to get the car. What's it called again?
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called actually. That's bad. She said that after the show, she did it. She went to do some more press junkets and she threw up because of how hot the wings were.
Oh my gosh.
That sounds like fun to me.
I think a lot of people are throwing up, eating those hot sauces, and I think they sell you the kit too.
Yeah, that'd be so much fun. But anyway, well, I think we can wrap up this episode here. I don't think we ever mentioned what movie we worked on together. It's a documentary called "The Case for Heaven."
Yeah,
it's based on a book by Lee Strobel. So if you want to check it out, it's on iTunes, Amazon.
Yep.
And is it still on PureFlix?
It's still on PureFlix.
PureFlix isn't going to be around much longer, but
yeah,
they got acquired.
But you know what's interesting? We should someday do an episode or break down some of it's not even so much like the crazy technical aspects of the film, but just the crazy stories behind getting those shots.
Oh, yeah. The birds in there.
There's a lot of birds.
There's one shot in the film. I remember because I was making jokes about there's filmmakers who blame everything on the gear. It's always like, it's not my fault I couldn't get it in focus. It was the lens.
Yeah.
Or it's not my fault the light didn't work. I couldn't get it lit because it's something like that.
Yeah.
And we got to the beach, and I'm on your 100 millimeter is ICP2 lens, and the focus gear stops working, and I'm like, I want to get the shot of the birds. I'm like, oh no, I was just joking about it. I'm like thinking, if this shot's not in focus, it's not my fault. It's the lens's fault.
Didn't we use it though?
It worked.
It worked. Yeah.
I got
a big
very
old
lucky.
Canon looking lens. Yeah.
Yeah. There was something that was in Portland where it was just not working for some reason, but it was working. Now it works fine.
Now,
the weather or something got in there.
Yeah, it was a very cold, and then there was a lot of the sand coming up because of the wind.
Yeah.
It's just crazy what you go through to make these films and for people to enjoy, and that's kind of the hardest part. I think that's why the criticism sometimes hurts pretty deep because you're like, man, you have no idea what I had to go through to get that shot or to get that talent there or put this show together. And that's why I've told myself, try not to say that a film sucks because it's so hard.
I'm the same. That's one of the reasons why I like this podcast. I try to be positive about it.
Yeah.
I mean, just because there's too much negativity in it, and making a movie is really hard to do. And even getting one made is, I mean, if you can make a movie and watch it and it's actually comprehensible, it's kind of magic.
You can only get better, I would think, right? I mean,
I think so.
You know what I mean?
Because I used to look at films as almost like sacred texts. Look at Star Wars or Goodfellas, Godfather, all these movies, and it's like these are perfect works of art. But when you start getting into it, how malleable the whole thing is and how one thing could be different one day, it changes the entire movie. So it's just, and in a lot of the episodes I talked about how like all these movies we loved could have been way different if it happened any other way.
Oh.
So,
and that's, I did want to say something before we end, was that the thing to get most romantic about, I know some people get romantic about the lenses, the setups, your crew, your talent, even the story, but if you don't feel a thing, then how can you expect the audience to feel anything? And what I'm getting at is like, you could prepare everything just the way you want, but you might actually miss the moment and that feeling that people get when they watch it because we've romanticized the process way too much.
Yeah.
And that's what, at least I've learned from watching and working on films, is that like, I'm actually more concerned with the intangibles than all the other stuff. And you could get lost in it because you continuously think about everything else, but am I being present right now? Am I actually watching what's in front of me? You know?
Yeah, what you just said, I'll make one more note, then I think we'll have to call it a day on this one. There's a movie that Dustin Hoffman directed called Quartet. You happen to see it by chance? Probably not, based on the look on your face.
No.
I watched the movie. Technically, perfect film. Felt nothing from it.
Oh.
I'm like, what a boring movie. And like, it's a good movie from everything, but there's just like all the pieces there. Everything's great, but it was just missing something.
And you know what's like the best question to ask someone when, whether you want to collaborate, get feedback, just ask the filmmaker, like, what was your vision for this scene or this movie? Because it's so funny. We're so quick to offer what we would do, what we like, but that's what you like. What was their vision? And that's when I think you find good collaborations, when someone asks, what is it that you're trying to achieve? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And people that actually are trying to bring in their expertise or even their styles to take yours further. But then sometimes we try to self-impose our look, our style, us into someone else's projects. And that's one thing I appreciate about you, that you're like, what are you going for? And let's see what we find. Versus, honestly, I don't hire some people specifically because they're imposing, or they don't know that they're imposing too much of what their preferences are versus where we're trying to go with this.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the world is full of enough of the same looking films. Like we should really take more chances. And I understand why we don't, because there's money on the line, there's time on the line, and it's a little safer just to turn on the radio and copy the song that you just heard that's hitting, versus like, hey, what about writing something new, you know?
Exactly. So on that note, everyone, thanks again for watching. If you have any comments, thoughts, or, thought something we said was completely wrong, you want to let us know that we don't know what we're talking about, please feel free. Any comments appreciated. Feel free to like, subscribe, whatever platform you're watching or listening on. And also feel free to email us at antimattermovies@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening and or watching. I'll see you all next time. Bye.